All right, we are back live on the Andre Duke Show. How is everybody doing this fine Monday after that weekend of college football that was? Um, just get it started off the top here. If you can do us the biggest favor, this is the first time finding the show. Um, if you could hit that like and subscribe button, that helps us a ton. It helps us get through the algorithm, helps push us to the top. That is something that we're trying to do here. Appreciate everybody for that. Um, huh. That's strange. I don't know why that's acting so weird, but anyway, um, we'll get it going. Phone line is open. The number to call is on the ticker below. I gotta get something else in line here really quick, and then we will proceed on. How is everybody doing this evening? Appreciate everybody for tuning in. That helps us a ton. Let me get this. There is that. Got that done. But anyway, we'll start with the topics that are being heavily discussed on ESPN.com. University of Georgia comes out of the University of Georgia. They dismiss a offensive lineman with several charges. Be interested to see how that whole thing shakes out. Very, very fascinating to say the least. I'm sure with everything that's gone on at Georgia, I am 100%. I bet Kirby is not 100% thrilled with that. So there's a lot of speculation going on with what's going on at the University of Georgia with the offensive linemen. So there is that. I don't know. I think in things like these, situations like these, I think you got to let the facts play out, to say the least. Also, we are live on TikTok as well. I can't believe that it's kind of gotten to where it got with that. So there's that. Also, some positive news coming out of Happy Valley. Drew Aller, I guess, is suspected to make a full recovery. And then there is going to be ESPN's got on the main page that ESPN and CFP agree to move deadline for format changes to January 23rd. I don't know exactly where the bottom is going to fall out with the CFP format. I know there's people that are not happy, especially in the ACC, the Big 12, SEC, the Big 10. None of these conferences are aligned on the CFP format. I think it's interesting that ESPN owns the entire thing. I think they're gearing up to make a big push, because I think the two industry leaders going forward in sports are going to be Amazon and ESPN. I think if NBC and CBS don't step up and try to buy more into the market, I don't think that you're going to see sports on CBS or NBC in the next contract. Maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think you'll see the NFL on there. But I think that, Netflix, from all intents and purposes that I've seen, they're getting a sports division fired up. I don't think that is positive for network TV people that have traditional cable. I think a lot of these services are going to end up with a model that you're not going to like, that you're going to have to pay big money for. I think that that's coming down the pipe. Most certainly. I think that Paramount Plus they're already getting involved with UFC. You're going to see that UFC is going to be free on Paramount Plus. The Dana White and them struck a monster deal. So there is that. Lonnie, appreciate you from Aggie Land, my friend. And don't worry, I do have an Alabama shirt on. I do have tons of team gear, but I'm really high on Texas A&M this year. They're 11-0. That big matchup that we'll get into with them in Texas. Surratt, I guess, expects to be back for Indiana wide receiver. I guess expects to be back for Purdue, but if I'm Cignetti, I'm sitting him. Let him go out there and get a couple of series or two and let it ride. Boomer Sooner. Hey, appreciate everybody down south. Lonnie says it's going to be a good game between Texas A&M and Texas. Yeah, I think so, but I kind of lean the other way. I think Texas might get blown out. That's a distinct possibility. Also, the 4-star running back flips from Aggies back to OU. The recruiting stuff is just I don't know anymore. It's all about with this rev share stuff and everything that jumps into that. Also, the 2 UAB players that were stabbed by a teammate are out of the hospital. Good for those guys. Cannot believe UAB has not been very good since they brought the program back. I think they hired the wrong guy in Trenton Dilfer. I probably would have hired Bryant Vincent, looking back on that situation, if it was me. Just my opinion. So there is that. Also, Mike Norvell gets the vote of confidence from the Florida State folks. I just look at that and I think, wow. I guess we'll see where that whole thing shakes out. I think Norvell is kind of on his last, best, and final. Appreciate the follow, my friend. Just trying to grow it here. Also, if you want to come on over to the YouTube channel, it's the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith on the YouTube channel. If you want to slide on over and hop in the chat there as well and hit the like button and subscribe, that helps us a ton. That is something that we're trying to do here. And let me get that sorted out there. So there's that. And then going to the main story, the most talked about story in college football right now is the Lane Kiffin saga. I've talked about that a lot. There's not a whole lot, I think, left to be said there. Lane's going to do what Lane's going to do. I personally think that Lane is leaving. I don't see in a world where he stays. That's just me. Some people might disagree with that. I think that LSU is going to offer him a ton of money, and I don't know if he'll be able to turn that down. That's just kind of where I'm at on it. Feinbaum came out today and said he feels like feels like uh, he's going to be leaving. So that's fine. I mean, Paul's on ESPN. He gets paid to say things, so that's all on Paul. So there's that. Also, the phone line is open. The number to call is 260-255-4069 is the number to call. If you call me restricted, I'm not going to answer. So try to stay away from the prank calls. So we will try to get everybody ready to go before Monday Night Football. I don't know how long we're going to roll tonight. Okay, got that done. So there's where we're at there, but we'll get into the pretty much meat and potatoes of it. Some interesting stuff. Cal over the weekend fires Justin Wilcox. I think that's surprising to me. I don't think Cal was investing a ton of money into NIL. This is the thing with me, and I'm not trying to be the absolute almost coach defender on this, but the big thing is that I don't know how you expect these guys to win when you give them no resources to win. That's just where I'm at on it. Because if you don't allow them to go out there and acquire players, they're not going to win anything. I think the situation is different compared to what it was a few years ago. With no above board NIL. I think that is something to be said. I think that with all the interim coaching things that we have going on in the coaching, I'm not going to call it a coaching, the coaching carousel, as you would call it. You got to see where it spins and it stops. That's just something that comes on to it. I think that the amount of jobs that'll be open opposed to jobs that are going to get filled, it's going to be very fascinating because of the amount of coaches that are going to move to every said job. You may have somebody that was at Cal last year that they may end up showing up at UCLA next. It's going to be very fascinating to say the least on how this whole thing is going to shake out. I don't necessarily believe that. I think Kiffin is kind of the catalyst here. It started with James Franklin and then Kiffin being the catalyst. As soon as Kiffin makes a decision, it's going to, I think, put a lot of extra pressure on everybody else because then if Kiffin leaves Ole Miss, then you have another Power 4 job that comes open. I think that it's interesting to say the least. When it comes down to it, I just don't think that. I just don't think that it's going to help anybody that's in a coaching search right now. You have Auburn that's open. You have LSU that's open. LSU believes they found their guy in Lane Kiffin. So there's that. I think Auburn is, from some of the things out there, they are settling in on, I think, John Summerall. But if Ole Miss comes in, if Ole Miss comes open, I think Ole Miss is a major player in this. And I know a lot of people dismiss it as it's little old Ole Miss, I think that you can't do that at the moment. Just for the simple fact of, depending on what Kiffin does, it'll do wonders, I think, for the program if they go out there and land their guy. I think that they have a really good I think they have a really good support staff that are working on this, but I kind of think that they know what they're going to do, and I think they know what direction they're going to go. Especially Keith Carter, I think that it's kind of put him in a ruckus spot, to say the least. I hate that for Keith Carter, but it is what it is. That's, kind of how business is. I mean, it's kind of like the players, the coaches are free agents every cycle, and for all intents and purposes, we'll see where that shakes out. Also, we're about 20 minutes in, almost, but if you can do us the biggest favor, hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow the show. Also, the phone lines are open. If you want to call in, you can call. Number to call, 260-255-4069 is the number to call, and it's also on the ticker below. But I guess we will turn our sights towards last week. Not a whole lot going on, especially on the SEC front. I think there wasn't a ton of games of note. It was kind of, because the SEC formats their schedule different than the Big Ten, which people fail to realize that, but whatever. Texas A&M blows out Samford. No shock there. Georgia rolls over Charlotte. One of the other interesting... What's up, Joe?
Hey, how was your week of football? Weekend?
It was good, other than I had a couple of Florida fans call up when I was doing the live stream with for the Tennessee Georgia game, and they were down like 14-0, and they were telling me how Florida was going to come back. I thought that was fascinating.
And I think Florida didn't, right?
No. The final on that one was 31-11. They lost by 20.
Yeah. And who was it? Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee played Florida. It's the first win.
Yeah, that was your game.
That was the game of the week.
Right. That was the game you set for the whole game, right?
Yeah.
On the air?
Yep.
That's tough to do, man.
But I was also captivated by the Western Kentucky LSU game, because that was shockingly close.
And what did that wind up? LSU won, I guess.
Yeah, LSU won 13-10.
Wow. Holy mackerel.
Yep. So,
man, it's amazing. The one good thing you could say about Penn State is they didn't go into the whatever that term is, but
Nebraska,
like LSU went into the tank, right? That's what it is. LSU just went into the tank. Penn State battled themselves, out somewhat.
Yeah, I would agree. Penn State fought hard down the stretch. I think one of the bigger issues that Penn State has created now is they were holding up signs after the game to hire Terry Smith as the coach, and I don't know how
that's the guy in there now, right?
Yes.
They like the guy that's in there?
Yeah. I don't know how that is going to shake out, to be honest.
Well, if the fans like him, that's a good start for him anyway.
Well,
they must see something in him. Is he the OC or the DC?
I think he was. I'm not sure what position he held on the staff, but they made him the interim coach. I know Jim Knowles
Yeah,
is the
right. That's
Jim
right.
Knowles is the DC. If Penn State wins
Coming
next,
from Ohio State. Yeah.
yeah, if Penn State wins next week, they would be bowl eligible. They got to be. They got to
Which
beat.
is,
They
you know,
they play
that's a
Rutgers.
yeah. They turned it around. I think they didn't go into the tank. Like they played hard after all that turmoil.
Well, they had
They still stuck to the
after they fired
their veteran.
Franklin, they had to go on the road to Iowa. They lost by 1 point. Then they had to go to Columbus, which that's a tough place to play. And then they had Indiana, where they
Yeah.
lost by a field goal to IU. They beat Michigan State. They beat the brakes off Nebraska, and they have Rutgers to go to a proverbial bowl game. So, I think for
Yeah.
all things being said up there in Happy Valley, I think that I consider the season was not what you wanted it to be, but it could have been a whole lot worse. You could have quit like Florida did.
Right.
So
yeah, they salvaged it, and I would give a lot of credit to the veteran leadership. Like all those guys came back to try and win it,
yes,
and they had a lot of controversy and a lot of chaos, and yet the veteran leadership made them still, bring the team together to play hard every week, and they did. So you got to tip your hat a little bit, at least to the team. Maybe not the coaching, although the coaching you got to give it to them too, because they probably didn't want them to quit either, right?
right.
So
I think as we wind down the college football season, I think it's very telling. I guess we'll get the Notre Dame stuff in and out of the way really quick. There's not much there. Notre Dame crushes Syracuse. Um,
that was a freakish thing to see as it unfolded, right? I mean, three touchdowns by your defense in the first half, anyway, right? Or was it the first quarter, maybe?
And I look at that, and like, I'm not trying to bag on Syracuse and Fran Brown. I think he's done an outstanding job up there. I think that what it was is his starting quarterback got hurt, and then they lost
right.
a couple in a row. They just didn't have a backup.
Right.
They didn't have a backup,
and they still don't. Like they were using 3 for the last 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, I think they were rolling with 2 guys, and in this day and age, you can't really do much if you don't have a guy throwing the football that's
yeah, but that just shows that Fran Brown was willing to say, okay, anybody that steps up, it's your game, it's yours to take. Like we'll run with you if you show me something. So he was giving all 3 a chance to really show anything to him because he was out of answers.
Right, and that's all you can do when you're Syracuse. That's probably competing with a quarter of the budget that Notre Dame is.
Right,
I
for
think
sure.
I think that
not just Notre Dame, but everybody.
I think people that are naive to the fact that they think that the budgets and stuff like that don't play a factor into it are very, very naive.
That's all it's about now. Yes, that's all it's about now. It's we knew it was about money 5 years, 10 years ago, probably. As soon as the SEC got good, that's when we knew it was about money. And the guys were getting paid at that time when they weren't allowed to, but they were. And that's what brought SEC into prominence because those people aren't dumb. There's like, we can make a lot of money if we risk a little bit, by paying under the table or buying cars or, don't be able to trace the money, but it's been going on for 50 years, and it's only been a few of the teams that were doing it, but all of a sudden it got, successful. And then I think USC with Reggie Bush and the quarterbacks that they had, all of a sudden these guys were driving around in Maseratis and things like that. It's like, okay, middle of 2000 and beyond, it's been just a free for all. Who can get the most creative and not get caught at it. And so, now we're at where we are, where it got legal because everybody was doing it.
Well, I think the NCAA kind of finally on that end of it, which I don't want to make this all about NIL, but I think the NCAA kind of figured out that's kind of what it is. But
yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that with the coaching changes that have went on, especially Penn State getting a huge discount on Franklin, it makes their decision not look so bad. Virginia Tech is eating 40.
What's the huge discount? What do you mean?
You know how when they fired him, the contingencies in his contract, when they fired him, if he didn't take another job, it would be, $49 million buyout.
Uh-huh.
Well,
but if he did, what was it?
He took the Virginia Tech job. I think they gave him a 5-year, $41 million deal. So Penn State's only on the hook for $9 million.
Is that the way it was structured, where he'd have to absorb the buyout of Penn State amount to take a new one? I see.
Yeah, because
I see.
Because I think
so. Penn State paid the difference of his salary.
Yeah, they had to
pay. That's a pretty fair way to do it.
And a lot of coaches have their stuff structured like that. So there's just, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think because of the legal fight, I don't think Brian Kelly's, I think he's done.
You mean as a coach, period?
Yeah, I think he's done.
Or just in this legal case?
I think he's done, period. I don't think he's coming back to coach.
Even if he loses the fight, which he probably shouldn't.
I don't think he's going to. I think they're going to settle for about $40 million. He's 64 years old and probably thinking to himself, do I really want to do this anymore?
Right. That's right. He'll go to TV.
Oh, I think he'll definitely go to TV, and I think he'll do really well on TV. I wouldn't be shocked if he's not on College Game Day.
Well, they got Saban.
Well, Brian Kelly and Nick Saban.
I think he could. Yeah, I don't see that happening, but it's possible. It's possible he could go to CBS.
Yeah, I could see that with Rick Neuheisel.
Yeah,
I think
Gary Danielson stepping down.
Yeah, so
he might be the color guy. He might try it out. They might offer him to try it out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
Because he's never at a loss for words,
I think I wouldn't be shocked if he does a bowl game as a trial run, and if it goes really well, I think he'll do it because he'll make a little scratch. He'll be getting his money from LSU over the next couple of years. I don't think he's hurting for money, but I think one of the more things that this is something that I'm glad you called in tonight, Joe.
Thanks.
You probably did not see the senior night stuff from LSU.
I didn't know.
Well, I'm assuming it was Brian Kelly's son on the team. And he came out there, and I think it was his mom and sister there, and his dad wasn't there. And I'm just like, man, that is a tough scene.
For sure.
Because
his son was on the team?
Yes.
Wow.
And
his dad didn't go to see. Well, I wonder if he was invited to.
If you're Brian Kelly, I don't think you go to that.
Yeah. That is a tough situation for sure.
After they fired you, I'm really shocked his son ran out for senior night and didn't take his name out of it, but he did have a shirt that said BK on it, and he pulled up his jersey, and when he ran out, there were all kinds of flash bulbs, which I get it. Some of the kids on the team love Brian Kelly, and I'm not trying to be a Brian Kelly apologist. I know everybody has a varying opinion of it. Do I think that he deserved to get fired mid-season? No, I think that they should have had him coach the rest of the season and evaluate what was going forward. Because instead of their record being,
well, was he? Let me ask you, Duke, was he booed for the kid?
no, I don't believe so.
I hope not. That would be rough because it could have been that LSU fans wouldn't have even known that was his kid.
Yeah, I think the fans knew. I just think the A&M firing, I because they end up beating Arkansas, they beat Western Kentucky, they have Oklahoma. Let's say Brian Kelly doesn't get fired and they miraculously pulled something off against Alabama. That from A&M, that would have been 3 wins in a row with Oklahoma that has a lot riding on it, and Brian Kelly could have probably motivated the team to win that one, and they could have ended up 9-3. And is that season a failure? On some ends of it, the LSU people would say it's a failure, but at the end of the day,
well, from where they were, if they finished like that, it would have been a success. I mean, they were bad from about game 3 or so.
Yeah, the wheels were starting to come off. You could see it. You could see it.
So if he was able to rally them, yeah. But if they did stay with him for the year, and then he was able to rally it, like you suggest at the end, to like that, I think they would have been happy that their team, showed enough to get 9 wins anyway from where they were mid-season. So yeah,
I just think it's interesting because Saban's time at LSU, he was 48-16, but he won a national championship. Brian Kelly was 34-16, and Kelly didn't get to the 5-year mark.
Right.
So.
Right. See, that's what he did with Notre Dame too. I hate to say it, but like he wins your games that you expect him to win, but then come time when the rubber hits the road and he's got to be the guy to win, figure out how to get your team up to the next level. He couldn't do it at Notre Dame, and like he had a couple of years out of 12 years, he had 2 where they got to the final. Right? I mean,
one CFP, and then he got steamrolled against Alabama.
Right, and that's where it was like the Irish fans, at least me, I knew he wasn't the guy. Like I was happy for what he did in his first 6 years, but in his last 5 or 6 anyway, it was like, he's not going to do it. You could just see that, he doesn't make the right choices, and he blames everybody but himself. And then at the end, like he'll go on a tirade of a post-game conference and blame everything that happened on everybody else. And then at the end, he'll give a sentence like, but it all falls on me. Yeah, it's like, you just took 30 minutes to bash your team and your coaches and your execution and all this, and then all of a sudden he's like, but it's all on me. I don't buy it. Sorry. He lost it for me as a Notre Dame fan several years before his departure.
Well, I think that this is something that I've gone back to and have said. I think at certain points when somebody stays at one place too long, the voice just echoes and it doesn't resonate anymore. Kind of like the Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, James Franklin at Penn State. I think a couple of those guys are, I think this is going to be a good fresh start that Franklin will need. Virginia has a lot of players. If he can keep those kids and get them to go to Virginia Tech, I think he'll be okay. But it just depends upon what is the expectation versus reality at Virginia Tech.
Right.
That's my only thing, because you can't expect that he's going to take you to a national championship in year one when there's so much stuff going on with rosters and all of that, So
Yeah.
I think as long
The
as
thing is, there's only one team that wins every year. One team,
yeah,
So, how do you kind of, justify your anger when there's only one team that can do it, and that's what makes Saban so amazing, is how many times he did it. As only one team can do it, he did it like 6 times with Alabama. It's like, what the hell?
yeah.
So, I mean, like, it just proves out, like, good coaching is really what it's all about.
There's
And recruiting, everything that goes into it.
I think there's only what 3 active coaches with a national championship.
That wouldn't surprise me at
Kirby,
all.
Ryan Day, and Dabo.
Yeah.
And Dabo's got 2.
Right. And how many does Kirby have? Two as well, doesn't
Yep, Kirby's got 2. And Day's got 1. Here's an interesting thing that I found. The Raiders get rid of Chip Kelly this week.
he? Did they?
Yeah.
Oh.
Chip Kelly was
He's back to college. He'll be back to college.
I don't know.
Now, that would be a good, they got so many openings, though, Duke.
Yeah.
Think about it. Chip Kelly could be a commodity for, how many teams are looking now in Division One? Like 8? He'd easily get 4 people very interested.
What I think, what I kind of think Chip will do is, if Brian Hartline at Ohio State moves on, I think Chip Kelly will go back to Columbus with Ryan Day.
I don't know. He might be able to say, "Look, I'm not getting any younger. I've done it before. I can be a head coach." I had some success at Oregon as a head coach. I didn't win the big one, but I made them competitive and elite. So, he's. I don't think he'd go back as an assistant. I don't do. I think he wants to make one final run at being the head cheese.
I don't think so, because I think that's why he left UCLA, because he doesn't want to do the fundraising and the dog and pony show anymore. Although,
yeah, well, he wouldn't want to. That's a tough place to have to try and do it, But
I think,
at a place like Penn State or LSU or South Carolina, Kentucky, I guess you wouldn't get. But what's that other? Arkansas. Who are the guys in that are looking now? Am I naming the right ones?
In the SEC, I think it's Arkansas, Auburn.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think with a lot of the inside knowledge that I have, that I can't really disclose. I think they have their candidates narrowed down. And
but that's before Chip Kelly got thrown into the possible mix, right?
Yeah, but if I'm Arkansas, I'm not hiring Chip Kelly.
Why not? They have an offense, and Chip Kelly's all about offense.
What's Arkansas's biggest problem is they can't stop a nosebleed. Arkansas, I think I know who they're going.
That's never bothered Chip Kelly.
But I think I know who Arkansas is going to hire. I think I know who Auburn's going to hire. If Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss, they're not hiring Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, it's going to be hard for him. It'll have to be a program that needs to take a big swing and a big swing and swing for the fences, kind of like North Carolina did. I think.
Yeah, but what about Texas? Have we talked about this before with Stark? Is he going to leave, and would Chip work there?
Texas is not hiring Chip Kelly. Now, the only SEC.
And why do you think that?
Because I think they're going to go after Lane Kiffin.
Oh, interesting. So LSU has more to worry about.
Yes, that's why the longer the Kiffin stuff drags on, it's an issue.
Well, the richer he's going to get anyway. The longer he waits to say anything. But of course, he's not going to say anything during the season, especially when they're in the midst of a very good run for their team.
From everything that I've seen, that two guys that I follow that report on this at MPW Digital, in their Ole Miss beat writers, if he does not tell, and this is just me kind of reading between the lines, basically it comes down to this, is what I got from Neil and Chase talking about it. If he does not give Ole Miss an answer, the Egg Bowl is his last game.
Do you think they're going to put an ultimatum on him where he can go wherever he wants?
You can't let him coach in the playoffs and then leave. Under no circumstances can you do that.
But he hasn't said he's leaving. He's all about his team right now.
But see, here's the deal, Joe, and I know you don't follow Ole Miss as close, but when you talk about Ole Miss, what is everybody talking about? It's not about the team. It is about, they are talking about what Lane Kiffin is going to do. He is making this all about him. I know Lane Kiffin loves him some Lane Kiffin, but at the end of the day, he has to make a decision whether he's going to coach the playoffs, because even in a perfect world, what I think he wants to do is he wants to coach the playoffs, and then he wants to leave and go to LSU or Texas if Texas opens up. There's no world that you can do that. Ole Miss has to move on, because you're really leaving them in a lurch at that point, is what you're doing. So I feel like if they're going to,
so you're saying Ole Miss has to have an agreement in hand before the Iron Bowl.
No, the Egg Bowl, I think he needs to tell them,
or the Egg Bowl.
He needs to tell them if he's staying or going, so they can make the appropriate steps to go forward. Because here's the other end of it. If he's going to take another job, he could be recruiting your players to leave whenever he finally leaves. Because you got to remember, the transfer portal opens when he's not the coach anymore.
Well, as far as I know, he's got still several years on the contract, right? So he's not necessarily declared anything. And as far as he knows, and as far as his talk with them, is that, look, I'm under contract with you guys. I like what I have here, and there's a lot of teams showing interest in me, and maybe if there's something you guys can do to kind of keep me staying here, like, let's see what you're going to do towards the fundraising. Like, he'll have a lot of say of, before that Egg Bowl and after the Egg Bowl. If they want to make some kind of a determination at this point of, well, we're going to have to go out and get, they don't even know who they could get. It's like he's in the better position than they are for them to be calling any shots, in my opinion.
Kind of, sort of. But I think he's got to give them.
And then where does Sark go? If it like you said, if he decides, yeah, you know what, they made me an offer I just can't say no to, I'm going to go to Texas. And no matter when he decides that and tells them that, what does Sark do?
I think Sark's.
What do you think
I think he'll go to the NFL.
Okay. But who would want him? I mean, he hasn't really shown enough.
The thing with Sark is that I think people are overlooking the fact that he went to Texas, which is a very hard place to win, for one.
Right. The expectations.
and then you have boosters involved. You have a ton of people involved in that program that, quite frankly, in my opinion, should not be involved in that program, to be honest. But they feel that they give.
Well, they're looking at their little brother, Texas A&M, getting all this money, and they're saying, "Wait a minute, how are they able to do that? And we can't get enough money to compete with them, our little brother." You know.
I think you'll see an absolute meltdown if they get blown out by A&M.
Yeah, and Sark will be gone.
That's in. Some people say, because he came out and said, people are saying that whenever he said that I'm not going anywhere, I thought that was fascinating on his end of it, because it's like, one, I don't know if that decision is going to get left up to you.
Well, no. I mean, like you said, I mean, if he gets blown out by Texas A&M, definitely not up to him. It'll be Texas's call to say, you know, we gave it a good shot, we gave it a good run, we need to move on.
That's what I think they'll give it the mutually parting ways.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that shakes out. But I think it's all going to be very fascinating. The week after the conference championship games, opposed to the first week of the playoffs, that 2 weeks, I think the coaching picture will be pretty much solved by most parts. And for all I know is Lane Kiffin could come out after the Egg Bowl and say, I'm staying at Ole Miss, and then it crushes everything.
Yeah.
Do I think he'll say that? No, I think he'll give some type of non-answer. That's what I think he's going to do. I could be wrong, but
yeah.
And I think all the positive.
I don't know.
All the positive things.
I see a lot of. Yeah.
I just feel like a lot of the positive things that he's built up, he's wasted them.
See, I think in the FBS, FCS, is it Alex Golish?
Oh,
and
USF.
Yeah, and Arizona State's Dillingham. I think those guys are ready to move up to the big time. So I think they're going to be two of the guys that get to a Power 4 school. Which ones winds up? I think we're going to find out, like you said, after the season. You know, after the conference championships and before the playoffs, it'll be a lot clearer. And I think those are two of the guys that are going to move around.
Now, Dillingham isn't leaving.
Now, why would you say it? Because to me, he's gonna get a lot of interest. He's gonna and the same as Golish. I think they're both gonna get a lot of interest.
Golish is
in the Power 4.
I think Golish will possibly. I think USF will be in the market for a coach, but Dillingham is not going to leave just for the simple fact that he went to Arizona State. That's his alma mater.
Yeah, but if he's, Charlie Weiss went to Notre Dame, they got rid of him. So,
the only way they'll get rid of Kenny Dillingham is if he gets fired.
Yeah, but what if he's making about $3 or $4 million this year for them, and a team like LSU says, we're going to triple that? Then what does Dillingham do? Say, no, I'm a West Coast boy. I went to school here. I don't think so.
I would be highly, highly shocked if Kenny Dillingham left Arizona State. I would be really shocked.
Yeah,
but I don't.
Money talks, Duke. Money talks, buddy.
I think money does talk, but I think that he's always wanted that job. He was a student there, and they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, but he's proved. I think he's proved his chops. He's done a lot in a little time.
I'm not saying.
I think there's going to be a lot of interest in him.
I'm not saying that he's not qualified, but I think it'll have to be a mountain of cash to get him to leave.
Yeah,
And also,
but the Power Four schools have it. Like Penn State would have it; they'd make room for it. But I don't know if he'd.
you want to live in
You
State College or Tempe? That's a no-brainer to me. I'm just saying.
well, you also have to look at your brand and say, this is a team that's the blue blood, and they want me to be their head coach, and they're going to pay me a lot to do it. But I'm not sure he'd be as fit there. But just the idea of a pretty good name Power Four school, I think, awaits him. And I think that a pile of money is not going to be an issue. I think he's going to be able to get it. But it just depends on who thinks that he'd be able to win, like anywhere in the SEC. These schools are going to say, can he make it? Can he cut it in the SEC? Like, he did pretty good for a Pac-12 school, and then a Big 12 school, and then like those are really, one went defunct, and then the other one's staggering or struggling, just to field two teams, and he's one of them. So
I'm glad that you brought up the conference realignment. I think we'll have a clear path on that going forward. I think we will, just because it'll have a clear path after they sign the TV deals. I think what you're going to see, the big boys are going to take just some of the parts that they want, and then what's left from those two.
Well, I tell you, the Big Ten could be shooting themselves in the foot with this private equity thing, and I hope to hell Michigan and USC would go independent. I would love to see that, because that would throw it would give credibility to independence, for one thing, and then it might make other schools say, you know what, they might have something here. And I'm talking about teams from the SEC, that are sick of the bullshit and the politics that are now becoming more important than the game itself.
I think, and we'll get ready to wrap this thing up, but I think on the private equity deal, just where I'm at on it, surely Michigan is smart for not wanting to be a part of this. Ohio State traditionally sits on their hands. They never throw their weight around in the Big Ten. But the private equity deal pretty much fills the coffers for the teams that don't spend anything on football. That's what it does.
Right.
And it guarantees the private equity return. But the problem is you don't want private equity in college sports. You do not want that. I keep on telling people that, and they don't believe me. And I'm just like, you think it's bad now?
Well, the fans all know it. The fans for sure know it.
But the conferences in the Big Ten, they want financial security is what they're going for. Me personally, private equity deal, bad deal, not good. They shouldn't do it.
Well, what is that? What is that deal? Is it like 29 million? What was the number? 240 million, or what is it?
Yeah, the private equity company, from what I've read of it, I haven't read a whole bunch on it, but they basically are giving them free cash to operate. But they have
but they're talking about 240 million to be divided up by 20 teams or something, which only comes out to about 2 million each, or 2.5. Like, that's not nothing. These schools that are struggling aren't going to be able to make a competitive run based on an additional 2 million to their school. They're just not. That'll fill up, 2 positions if you're recruiting. Kids today are signing for $1 million. So what's 2.4 going to do?
Right. Yeah, I think
the conferences are too big, for one thing. They're out of control. They don't even know how to control there's too many talking heads now to have an opinion, and money isn't going to be the resolution.
So okay,
unless it's 240 million a piece.
what
then
I've got the details of it. So the Big Ten has been negotiating with the UC Investments, an investment arm tied to the University of California pension endowment system, to provide upfront capital, roughly 2.4 billion in total. In exchange,
right.
UC Investments would receive a 10% stake in a new deal, tentatively, of Big Ten Enterprises, whatever the hell that is. Schools would receive an immediate payout and a minimum of $100 million to ensure long-term revenue opportunities.
Ability.
Yes,
Yeah.
the payout tiers, top names, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State would get more. The deal also involves extending the grant.
So nothing really changes.
Nothing really changes.
So nothing really changes.
But
they'll have more money, but they'll still be in the same pecking order, because the better teams and the bigger teams of the conference will get the lion's share of that revenue anyway.
So
they won't really. Go ahead.
Here's the hook on what they're not leading with. In the fact that this deal passes, the deal also includes in extending the grant of rights deal, the go to R for the Big Ten, which is the TV rights, through 2046, which locks up membership commitments. So basically, what I'm seeing in this is we'll give you in excess of $100 million for a 10% stake in our new Big Ten Enterprises, which I think this is why they're doing this, because they're going to get the Big Ten is making steps to can Fox. Just hear me out on this. They're making steps to can Fox. And the pushback, two of the biggest schools, Michigan and USC, have publicly objected to this. They argue that it limits their institutional flexibility and hands out too much control to future rights. And they say joining the private equity could affect the nonprofit tax statutes in the universities. Trustees claim the process has been rushed and lack of transparency. They're not saying all the facts here.
Right. Well, that's an interesting bent, because if you are getting private equity, all of a sudden the university, who's like mostly non-for-profit, are all of a sudden going to have to disclose all their, because of a private equity factor, all their balance sheet and their profit and loss statement.
Yes.
They're gonna have to come forward with where they actually don't. Nobody likes to say as a university what the coffers are, right? And so you're gonna,
At times, state universities can just write in their own numbers to a certain extent.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that goes. I can't really comment to that, but
I'm just,
I can see them. I can see Michigan's point of, like, we're gonna all of a sudden have to open up our books to the federal government, and all of a sudden all these, like, it was the same way the NFL is a non-for-profit. It's a non-profit.
Yeah.
But they have such a good little circle of private commodity, outside of the government or inside of it. They can't outside of the government. They have the government doesn't really control their income. And so, Michigan is saying the same thing. Like, if we have to all of a sudden have to have our income statements being, public
audited.
News, and audited, I mean, it's going to be a lot bigger of a challenge, just because they're going to get $100 million anyway. Like, where's the advantage to the bigger schools? If they get more than 100, that's fine. But, like, they're making 100 on their television contracts anyway. What are they at? Like 60 million?
Yeah, I think it may be 89.
Yeah, and those are the best teams. So I mean, like, they're not really they're giving up a lot of control, like they say, in order to make an additional, 20 million maybe.
I just don't. I'm not a big fan of letting private equity in because when
No.
there's always a catch when someone wants to give you free money. That would be like, Joe, if I'm going to give you $5 million, like wouldn't that be like, why would you do that? It just this deal does not pass the smell test with me.
Mustard. Yeah.
It just doesn't.
No. Well, I don't think it's a benefit to the big schools. I don't think it's really that much of a benefit. I think they're coming at it from, if you take a look at the pie, the Big Ten pie, there's 20 teams, and these like 16 of them are getting a huge increase. They're going after that niche to say, yes, vote on it and vote us to help you out against these big guys. And then the big guys are going to be like, I don't really need the money. I mean, we don't really need it. But yet again, we're outvoted because there's 16 schools that are needing the money, and the 5 at the top for the Big Ten don't really need this. So they get it to pass because the littler schools need that money.
And I guess this will be the last thing, and then we'll wrap this up, and we'll get everybody out of here. It's 8:20. Monday Night Football's already started, but
okay. It's always interesting, though. I like calling in because we do talk about things that probably not a lot of people are talking about.
Right.
Like they're talking about it, but we have better insight, I think.
I think that where we're at on this, I don't like the fact, I'm sure USC does not like the TV deal that comes with the Big Ten. And if they sign this private equity deal,
they'll have more control they'll have more control at negotiating that.
So USC, I think, is looking at the fact that the grant of rights will be tied up until 2046. Next year, that is 20 years. You mean to tell me you think USC will be in the Big Ten for 20 more years with the way everything's changing in college athletics?
I don't think they'd like to tie themselves in for that long. No, I don't think they like to travel. I don't think they like the weather.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I think all the West Coast schools that signed in to come into the Big Ten, I think they think this is a temporary thing and we'll do this for a little bit until we can get some type of clarity on what it's going to be going forward. Because I think
so too, Duke. Yeah. I was going to say, I think that the Pac-12 might just reinvent themselves. After a few years of saying this travel sucks, they might just say, you know what, it wasn't so bad what we had there. And then if they could get any kind of help from the states that they are playing in and from the donors that they would have, resurrecting that, I think they wouldn't mind. Like, I think Arizona State would go right back. Arizona would go right back. Utah might even go back.
I think Utah is trying to position themselves to get into the Big Ten. Them and BYU.
Well, it's possible, but I think that they'd be, I think that the regionality, I think, is a good part of what made college football fun.
Yes.
Rivalries and things like that.
If it was up to me, I say bring back the Big East and go back to 6 power conferences, make the playoffs 16. Because the one thing that bothers me is Oregon State has a really good baseball program, and they have to struggle to put a schedule together to try to make the NCAA tournament, which is bothersome because they are a good program.
Yeah.
So, but I guess we'll cut it there. Monday Night Football is underway. Joe, anything before we get out of here? The phone lines will be open again on Wednesday night as well. So,
Thanksgiving Eve.
Yep.
You're a grinder.
oh yeah. I'll probably go Thanksgiving night after I get my turkey smoked.
Well, have a happy. If I don't talk to you on Wednesday, because it's going to be, I have a procedure I'm getting done. But other than that, if I don't talk to you, I hope you have a very merry and happy Thanksgiving, you and your family, and all you guys out there listening. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
I'll appreciate that, Joe. Since I have your number, I'll send you a text Wednesday morning.
Okay, sir.
From
very good.
For my personal number, so you'll have that.
You got it.
All right, appreciate you, Joe. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
All right, you too, bud. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Joe calls in. He's a good listener of the podcast. Hopefully everything with him is going all right, the medical procedure and all. So we're going to have Richie on tomorrow. We're going to be doing some of that stuff. And Thanksgiving coming up, I haven't made up my mind if we're going to do a turkey night special, maybe a watch party if there's any NFL on, depending on the good old work schedule. But with that, if you made it this far in the program, I appreciate everybody. Hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this thing, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.